Hey guys, we just landed here in Seattle, Washington, our beautiful Northpoint Washington facility. First of all, we just want to say thanks for joining us on this journey. Anything you want to say real quick, Big John?
Appreciate the support, and we got a lot of great episodes coming your way, so be sure to check them out, show us some love on all the different media platforms, YouTube, podcasts, all that good stuff.
Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes.
Absolutely.
Next few episodes are going to be showcasing our amazing Northpoint Washington staff, as well as some of the alumni that have graduated from this facility, as well as Northpoint, Idaho, that live in the Washington State area.
Yeah, it's going to be a real good time,
guys. Welcome to No Way But North, where we talk about the miracles of recovery and the tools used to achieve them. My name is Cooper Lyons. My clean date is November 27th, 2010.
Why did you go so fast?
That's just the cadence that I use. Right? It just gets in there. We go deep at
Northpoint Washington.
And as always, I am joined by my co-host, Big John Meldrum.
Big John Meldrum in the building.
We just had lunch.
We did just have lunch.
You feeling a little stuffed?
It's not like a Chipotle baby.
It's not like the pretzel baby?
Oh my gosh. No, it's not even close.
Yesterday, John had... How much did it weigh? Did it say how much it weighed?
A 1.5 pound pretzel.
1.5 pound
Bavarian pretzel.
Nice.
With 4 cups of nacho cheese on top.
I went over the top, Rocky.
Yeah.
It was not one of my prouder moments.
I can see why you were taking a nap in here earlier.
Don't you say that on
It
camera.
makes sense.
Hold on, that was
John,
in between takes.
John was laying on the ground underneath the cameras, straight snoring.
I was not.
John, I can't believe we didn't take a video of that.
He did take a picture. He did take a picture of me under the table.
I can see the windows flexing in and out with the snores like a cartoon house.
I hate all three of you. That's why you get that loud burst in your eardrums.
How does that go again?
Pew!
Yeah, don't do it, because they're
I'm
going
not
to
gonna
blow
do-
people's speakers out.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that to the people. Why are you trying to set me up, Alex?
John, anything you want to say before we get started and introduce this badass over here?
Nah, man, let's get going. I love our guest right now.
I know. You're kind of a Northpoint Washington celebrity. I don't know if you know that.
You are, like, when people...
I don't.
In Washington... I'll tell you, Rocky. I'll tell you. Like, in Idaho, people were like, man, we hired this tech, Rocky. He's awesome. So, like, I was all, like, geared to meet you when I came up here.
He's the Mike Cleaver.
You are
Washington.
the Mike Cleaver of Washington.
That's quite a compliment. I had a chance to meet him, so
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah, everybody knows
Mike
about
Cleaver
Rocky
is
the
no
Tech.
longer a tech.
Oh,
It's
okay.
true. What's his position? What's he called now?
He's like the maintenance supervisor for Idaho.
Yeah, he makes sure everything goes
I
smoothly
take that
over
back.
there.
I say that because it pisses him off.
He doesn't like that he's not.
He doesn't like that he's not a tech, but he still hangs out. He still comes
does
in on
tech stuff.
Sunday to work as a tech on Sunday, and when there's any downtime, he comes and helps out as tech. So
Mike's awesome.
he's rough.
So yes, you're right. It's a compliment, and you deserve it. So
Thank
we're
you.
excited to have you.
So excited.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Absolutely.
So, and this is actually another first that we've had on this show. This quote is a Rocky Teigen quote.
Teigen. That's
My bad.
okay.
My apologies.
That's all right.
Way to
The only
screw
time
it up.
the only time it was ever said right was when I was booked into King County Jail. Seriously. So you got to be joking.
You're like, damn it, my lowest point, Angie, my last name right.
Yeah. So, anyways, it's kind of funny. Yeah.
That's great.
So Teigen.
Yes.
Teigen. Okay.
It looks like it's spelled, buddy, or it's spelled how it sounds.
What do you want from me?
I want you to be better.
Okay, fair enough. That's a good response. So today's quote is, "If I die tomorrow, I don't want to be remembered for what I did. I want to be remembered for what I did about it," which I think is one of the best quotes we've had. I really I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass.
That thing,
The fact that you came up with that
It's
is
comparable with the Cinderella one.
Oh yeah, the last episode that we recorded was I can't even remember it now. How does it go?
I don't know. I
was,
can't even remember what I had for breakfast.
Oh god, it was if you lose your shoe, you're not in a fairy tale, you're drunk. Something like that.
Life's not a fairy tale. If you lose your shoe at midnight, you're drunk.
There you go. Yeah. Thank you. As our religious followers know, that is Alex, the man behind the camera. That one day we will get in front of the lens.
We'll never let you see him.
Is a international man of mystery.
You know what would be funnier? I just had this idea. We'll talk about it later. Sorry. I don't want to
Well, now I want to know.
So anyway, what did that quote mean to you? Give us the origin story of that quote.
So early on in my recovery, I was very close with my grandfather, and I was struggling. I was out of inpatient, just going into outpatient, and he had passed away recently, and I was on my way up to visit my grandma, in a week or so, and so he was kind of heavy on my mind, and I had a dream one night. We were sitting across the kitchen table from the house I grew up in, and I said to him, he said, "How's Holly?" Who's my wife? And I said, "Papa, I quit drinking." He said, "How's your son?" And I said, "Papa, I quit using drugs." And he says, "How's your family?" And I said, "Didn't you hear me? I quit drinking and I quit using drugs." And he kind of put his hand down on the table and he looked at me and he said, "You don't need recognition for doing what's right."
I like it.
And from that moment on, I had this idea that because of all the things that I had done and all the relationships I had broken, the only way up was going to be one foot in front of the other, and to put sober days behind me, and to make something of the mistakes that I had made. And so I would tell myself at the end of every day before I fell asleep that if I don't wake up, I want to be remembered. I don't want to be remembered for what I did. I want to be remembered for what I did about it.
I love it.
So.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will focus and dwell on the past, right? They'll ruminate on it, and they'll think that they're a bad person because of it, or they'll blame others, right? I was raised this way, or this thing happened to me, and that's why I behave this way. And it's like, yeah, that might 100% be true, but right now it's your responsibility to change those behaviors, to do things to make up for those mistakes, or make sure that you don't repeat them.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what went through my mind when I heard this quote. So
Thank you.
I really like it. Big John? He makes me read it twice every single time. If I die,
it's just for ritual now. I already know.
you already have it memorized probably. If I die tomorrow, I don't want to be remembered for what I did. I want to be remembered for what I did about it. Rocky Teigen.
Yeah.
Legacy. What's my legacy? What am I going to leave behind? Boom.
Perfect. Love it. Short and sweet.
You were going to dap me up. I saw you go
I
for it.
I was like, oh, okay. So, man, we really appreciate you taking time out of your day to be here and sit down with us with all the lights and cameras in your face. So it really means a lot. I know it's a little nerve-wracking, but I'm excited to hear about your story, hear about how the legendary Rocky came to be. So let's just start with your childhood. What was your childhood like? Relationship with your parents, siblings, things like that.
Yeah, it was really, really typical. Outside of a few things when I got a little bit older, but it was very, as cookie cutters as you could think of. Both my parents worked really, really hard. My dad worked really hard. Early on, my mom was the stay-at-home mom. She, was really involved in the schools and stuff like that. And so, if you can think of, a typical young childhood, that's kind of sums it up. My older sister, which I know she'll watch this at some point when it comes out. She's the best. We're best friends now. I love her with all my heart, but she was, she toughened me up.
That's what older sisters are supposed to do.
Yeah, I was the young brother, the little brother, because it was back then we had bunny ears on the TV and stuff like that. Yeah. And with the foil, to try to get the reception.
Bring it over so you get the good signal.
Yeah, so if you ever remember, you touch it and the signal got better. So she would, I would stand there and she'd make me touch it while she was watching her TV shows and stuff like that. So, yeah, but it was a really, just about as basic and straightforward of an early childhood that you can think of.
And you hung out with friends. You weren't an isolated kid. So a lot of times we hear people that have just really bad anxiety or isolation or things like that. Kind of, foreshadowing of what's to come.
Yeah.
Was that your experience, or were you pretty social?
Early on, I remember getting held back in kindergarten because I didn't want to play with any of the kids. I just wanted to play with the toys, and so they didn't think I was socially ready. So I flunked kindergarten, and then they put me in half-day kindergarten for a year, and then full-day kindergarten. Okay. And but after that, I remember being just the class clown. I was always. when we had our orientation here for Northpoint, I was asked what movie character I most thought of myself of.
Can I guess?
Yeah.
I thought you had one ready.
I didn't. I lost it.
Ferris Bueller.
Ah.
You know, and so that's kind of
I was going to say Roger Rabbit.
yeah.
I don't know why.
Ferris Bueller's way better.
Because I was
way more accurate.
I was charming and I was really polite, you know, and so I kind of got away with
Stuff you maybe shouldn't have.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I was my history teacher in high school graduated me because I was charming and told me to get into sales. So, but it was just something I always had,
Nice.
you know, early on. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. So, but I don't remember really isolating too much. I had with a name like Rocky, you know, everybody kind of knew you.
I know who The Rock is.
Yeah. So it was kind of hard to be, you know, in isolation. But
Yeah. Totally. Well, and like you said, just charming guy. Usually, if you're able to be social, it kind of just comes to you.
Mm-hmm.
So, so another thing that I know happened in your childhood that we talked about was your dad's surgery, and that kind of set a tone in your life for, you know, always kind of putting others first. If I'm remembering that correctly.
Yes. Yeah. It was a real challenging time, and it was really confusing time. But it was very much a catalyst towards this spark of empathy that kind of got ignited, you know, right around that time.
And how old were you?
13, 14,
Okay.
right around in there when it's his first surgery. From beginning, he lived in the hospital for almost a year, I think, and then you know, a good 6-8 months afterwards in rehabilitation and stuff like that.
And sorry, can you remind me what kind of surgery it was?
Brain surgery.
Brain surgery.
Yeah.
Cancer or
It
something
was
else?
benign.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually, but yeah, where it was located in a really, really difficult area to get to. It was right in the center, and so it was a very invasive, challenging surgery. But yeah, that sort of it in a good way, but it hit the pause button on a lot of things. And again, not in a bad way, especially if my parents do watch this. But it was, I wanted to help, you know, and I didn't know how.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to help.
Well, and it sounds like circumstances made you grow up really quickly.
Yeah.
Well, what was the relationship like with your dad?
My
prior to that?
really, really good. My dad was a really extremely hardworking guy, kind of a quiet guy. But we spent a lot of time together playing basketball and stuff like that out front of my house. I mean, I remember having nothing but really fond memories.
Would you say you looked up to your father?
Yeah, I idolized him, you know, like any young man would to
So
their
was
dad.
that hard to see your father go from like this, you know,
The man you
this ideal, you know, image in your head of strength
Yeah.
and connection to, you know, going through this struggle and this experience where probably it was real difficult for him to, I imagine with like brain surgery, really hard to get around and basic functions and stuff. So was that hard to see that, and so you felt like you needed to do something to help?
Yeah, very much.
Okay.
You know, seeing this guy that you look up to like Zeus, you know, and you know, when he initially went in, there was a chance that he wasn't going to make it, and that in and of itself was,
Yeah.
That's a lot to deal with.
Yeah.
As a 13-year-old.
yeah,
Because you're conscious enough to kind of know what that means, but you're not really equipped to
Yeah.
handle something of that magnitude.
yeah, you know, that this might be the last time you see your father,
Yeah.
you know. But again, he's Rocky Senior, and he's a fighter, you know, and you have that idea looming over you, but I'll see my dad when he comes out of it, you know, but it was I wanted to help fill the enormous shoes that my dad filled in you know, within the family unit. I wanted to try to help support. I wanted to be there for my mom. You know, all of those things, and I never thought of it as a, it never discouraged me. It just kind of, life just was what it was.
Were you the, so you said you had siblings. Were you the only other male sibling?
Yeah, just one other, older sister.
So
Yeah.
did you feel like you kind of, like with Dad going through that, you kind of had to assume the role of like the male figure in the house kind of to help out?
Not in a sense, because my sister is probably the strongest woman on the planet that I know of. You know, not that she wasn't dealing with it in another way, but it didn't really. I more saw my sister looked out for me. You know, like you remember? You ever see Wolverine, the X-Men movie, where he's fighting with Sabretooth?
Yeah.
He says, "No one kills you but me."
Yeah.
That was kind of
that's how that is exactly how me and my older sister are.
Yeah.
Like we have the best for that. I hated her guts when we were younger. She would pick on me and make me cry. But like that is my go-to like to this day. Like she's my rock 100%. So like I totally get it.
Yeah. And so it was mainly it was my mom that I kind of latched on to, because she was the primary caretaker of my dad, and luckily he was in a Teamsters union, which really supported us on that end of it. But you know, yeah, I just kind of I did what I could, and early on, you know, my sister and I we weren't super close unless somebody was picking on me. Then big sis would jump in, and so she was kind of doing her thing, and then I was kind of doing my thing, and she was getting, you know, at that stage in high school where you're thinking about college and stuff like that. So she had a full plate, you know, and so we weren't distant, but we were just kind of we were managing the situation in our own way as best as we could.
Yeah.
Cool.
So you started working, right?
Yeah.
At 13, like you were actually financially contributing and doing those things while your dad was going through the recovery process of all this.
Yeah, right around 14, sort of on the tail end when he moved back home, or when he came home from the hospital. I wanted to help out with the finances, you know, because it was the one thing I knew that it was tangible and that I could go do and that I could give to, you know, that I could give to the situation. And so at that age, it's really hard to find work, and so I did lawn maintenance.
Okay.
And I was a laborer on a construction site, you know, and paid under the table and stuff like that. And I found out really quick that I was much better at making a paycheck than I was at making a grade. And, you know, I really skated by in high school off being charming and cheating and making friends with really smart kids, you know, you know, stuff like that.
Which I feel like wouldn't have been hard for Rocky at all. Like,
What do you mean? Oh, making those friends?
No, just with his charming personality, just like fitting in all these different like social cliques to like achieve his end goal.
Yeah. My dad always said, I grew up with hearing him say everybody's buddy. My dad got along with everyone, absolutely everyone. And I remember that to this day. I say it, which is why I just get along with anyone and everyone, you know. And I learned as I got older too, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
For sure.
In so many situations.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so I started working, and when you're and then school, I did the construction during summer, and then school had started, and it was my junior year, and I was really kind of checking out, but I needed a job that I could work at nights. And so I started washing dishes. I got a job at a restaurant, and I thought it was great. It was really a level up because I wasn't outside getting rained on. You know,
I was in Seattle, right? You grew up in Seattle?
Yeah, in Lake Forest Park, just a couple neighborhoods over.
Yep.
But it was, you know, it was something else. It was the greatest day. I was peeling potatoes, and I was dry, you know, and so, but you're also in an environment where you're with, you know, a lot of older people, and you know,
and a lot of addiction.
Yeah, very much.
Line, right?
Yeah, I was in restaurants for 21 years.
Restaurant environment, man.
Yeah.
It's super. It runs rampant. It's one of those industries that it is just a part of it. I'm assuming that sounds like where you probably got your first drunk, first high, whichever one it was.
Yeah, we would always sneak beers at camping trips and stuff like that, and half the time we just threw them right back up, when we were 12, 13, 14. But a friend of mine in high school, or a friend of a friend, however it worked out, he broke his leg or he sprained his arm. He did something, and I'll never forget. But they gave him the biggest bottle of Vicodin. It looked like a tennis ball can.
We were talking about those big ass bottles
You know.
in the last episode.
And it was at the time, I didn't think even anything of it. And as this epidemic spread, here you go.
Yep.
And he took a few of them and didn't like them, and I took a few of them, and
Loved 'em.
it was a switch. My switch got ignited because between really not knowing what the heck to do in school, I was working. Part of me really just wanted to be a kid, and I loved sports. I loved football. I was confused. Being 13 and 14 and 15 is confusing already, period. And then you add some other elements into it, and it's, and I would get not night terrors, but at that age I had a real hard time sleeping. I got dream paralysis.
Sleep paralysis, yeah.
Where you wake up and you can't move.
Yep.
And I didn't want to tell anyone. I thought it was a ghost, and I thought
you were being possessed.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there wasn't internet. There wasn't smartphones. You couldn't. There was no WebMD, and so it just was, and it was terrifying. It was frightening. But I would take these pills, these Vicodin pills, and all of that turned off. The world, I could just kind of, I think I put it in there. The only thing, when I was writing out these questions, the only word I could think of it was exist. I just kind of existed, and I wasn't going forward. I wasn't going backwards. I just was kind of there.
You mean in your use?
Yeah. When I started
Stalled
using,
out, basically.
early on, I didn't question things. I just kind of went to work and tried to go to school, and it just was what it was. A lot of the forward progress, not developmentally, but the forward progress and shooting for college or wondering what I want to be when I grow up, stalled out. Like you said.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty common, especially because I got clean fairly young, or I started using fairly young, and I got clean pretty young, and I remember you just do what's in front of you, and you don't think about really anything else.
Yeah.
And most of the time, at least for me, like what was in front of me was how am I going to get high next time?
Yeah.
Like even when I was high, I'm thinking about, okay, I know I'm going to be kind of coming down around this time, so I need to work right now.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't even enjoy being high because I was just worried about the next one.
Yeah. It was the hamster wheel.
Continuous loop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so another thing that you had mentioned was your brain not shutting off even before your dad's surgery.
Yeah.
It sounded like you had that constant running hamster wheel in your head even before you started getting high or drinking.
Yeah, it was even to this day, which now it's a blessing. I've turned it into something that I can use for me. But I had a really hard time focusing. I had a really hard time focusing and caring and
Really apathetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I would get down, and I would see my friends and the stuff that they were doing and the college applications they were filling out, and I never really felt I skated through school, and I never really felt like I was smart enough. I couldn't retain information in books.
Yeah.
And I was really down on myself for that. And so I used being a class clown and being kind of charming and having a way with words, and then being high, I never got nervous when I was high. I never thought too much about it when I was high. And those things kind of coupled in, and that was who I was until I quit,
Yep. So, and would you say that once you found the Vicodin or the painkillers or opiates, that was kind of the start of the addiction? Like, I mean, clearly, right? But were you using addictively right from the start?
So I tried smoking pot and it terrified me.
Really?
I tried doing cocaine and I got suicidal. I tried drinking and it was hard to hide beer burps and stuff like that in high school. I still did it, but when I found Vicodin and then the trajectory perks all the way into heroin, when I found Vicodin, that was my ticket out. And
Out of your head, right?
Yeah. And it just that was it. I found the drug that was going to be my best friend until it killed me. Yeah.
So you made it through high school, graduated skating by.
Yeah.
And then I know you worked in the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
So how did the addiction progress? We don't necessarily need to get into all the nitty gritty details, but what are some of those bottoms, right? Like kind of the first bottom you hit, and then maybe the second, and then let's just kind of the highlights, I guess.
Yeah.
The unfortunate highlights before we get kind of to rock bottom and getting clean.
Believe it or not, I was a really, really high functioning addict, and I only bottomed out once. And so it reminds me of one of the guy for the Eagles when he was doing a concert. He said, I only had one drink and it lasted 13 years or something like that. And that's kind of how it was. I was able to, you only knew something was wrong if I wasn't high.
Yeah.
And I was able to really incorporate it into my lifestyle. And I gave enough nuggets to people where they knew I partied. No one knew how bad it was.
Yeah.
But I kept it surface enough where people just kind of knew that's what, and especially in that industry, it's really, really common.
And how old were you when that was happening?
That was on into, so after high school, I was 17, 18 on, 17, 18, 19, 20, yeah, all the way up and on.
Until you got clean, right?
Yeah. And
And how old are you now? Sorry?
37.
37. Okay.
And I got clean September 23rd, 2010. I was 28 then. Okay. So, but
congratulations on that.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I celebrated my 9-year sober date here, and I did wrap up that night here, and I was able to really, tell everyone that I had a chance to tell every single person in that room that I believed in them, and I was going to take advantage of that chance. And but yeah, jumping ahead a little bit, but talking of the sober date. But
so what was the rock bottom?
So as like with anything in drugs and alcohol, you hold on until you can't hold on anymore.
Until the bottom falls out of it.
And I use a lot of analogies because it can help make sense to a lot of things. But I think of Chris Farley when he's falling down the ravine and he says, "Oh, little roots, be strong." And then they break and he goes rolling down.
Tommy Boy.
Yeah.
Tommy Boy.
That was
the greatest Chris Farley movie ever.
I was hanging on those roots for probably from 25 until I quit. And I was hiding it, and I was just losing that grip. And at a lot of people, a lot of my brothers, who they're my cousins, but we grew up really, really close. I always refer them to as my brothers, but they started noticing things were going south. My wife started noticing things were going south. I didn't have a lot of friends. The only other friends I had were kind of my drug buddies and stuff like that. And so when the power bill wasn't getting paid and the water was getting shut off and the excuses were, you can only use so many excuses so many times. And my brother was living with me at the time and he moved out. And then I came home from work one day, and the power had gotten. I think it was the water. The water had gotten shut off. But I had a brand new. My oldest son was 3 months old, and that was the more responsibility that got layered onto a high functioning drug addict. The more pressure that goes on, the more you use.
Yep.
And the more you use, the harder it gets.
Yeah.
And the harder it gets to hide it. But I came home one day and there was a note from my wife, and she left. She left me. She took my son and left.
Yeah.
So
So is that when you decided to get treatment?
no, it took me another week. I didn't know what to do, and
Take your time.
yeah, sorry.
You should have tissues.
I know.
Thank you.
No, thanks for being this vulnerable with us. It
Yeah.
means a lot.
Yeah. I was scared, and I wanted my son back, but I didn't know how to quit. And about a week or so later, I didn't want my son to grow up with a deadbeat dad. And so I figured if I wasn't around, he at least wouldn't be able to, I wouldn't be able to hurt him if I couldn't quit using drugs and alcohol. And I knew I was a coward. I wanted to end my life, but I couldn't just do it. And so I got really high and I got really drunk one night. And before my wife left me, I had a key to my gun and she took it. Thank God. But I don't know how detailed. I mean, like, it's
Whatever you're
okay.
Whatever you're comfortable with.
But I put a bullet in vice grips, and I was going to take a hammer and a nail, and that was. But I was so drunk and I was so high that I couldn't line it up, and I passed out. And I came to in the morning, and I saw this. I saw where I was, and I realized that drugs and alcohol, not only did they take everything else, they took away my ability to end it. They took that was it. That was the only thing I had left. And I called my sister, and she said, "Hey, how you doing?" Like a normal phone call, and I said, I'm a full-blown heroin addict, and I need help, and I don't know what to do. And then that was it, and that was how Big Sis stepped in. No one kills you but me, and took the reins and got me help. So
Right on.
yeah,
That's incredible. I mean, if there was an image for the desperation when it comes to like the bottoming out of addiction and alcoholism, is a bullet in vice grips.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's not a better real metaphor for it, right? And
Yeah.
you literally lived through that. That's pretty incredible.
So sis stepped in.
Mm-hmm.
Big sis stepped in. And she got you into treatment.
yeah.
Inpatient detox.
She worked she was in New York.
Okay.
She lives in New York, and
What part?
Poughkeepsie, Fishkill, upstate.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with it.
Yeah. When it was, I always said it wasn't like my sister looking out for the big city. It was New York, look out for my sister. She's.
I'm like terrified to meet your sister
I
right
know.
now.
I kind of want to meet her, kind of don't.
Yeah, she's incredible. Like I said, yeah, she gets stuff done.
I believe
Without a
it.
doubt. I knew if I called her that she wouldn't stop until I got help.
Yep. That's a good person to have on your side.
Yeah. With no judgment.
Yep. That's awesome.
But she and my mother paired up. My mother was down in California, but she got on the phone because I was done. I got fired. I was living in a house with no water, no power. But she got in touch with Department of Social and Human Services. And basically she lined it all. She made it as simple as possible. And you need to go to this website, print this up, fill this out, take it there. You know, this is, and there was a sort of a liaison, like a person, a social worker that she was in contact with, and then reached out to me. And that was how so we kind of triangulated. And then, but I had to do, you know, I had to do, yeah. I had to do the work. And so, yeah, and, so that was, so the Department of Social, I got the scholarship or the grant that got me into Detox in Renton.
Okay.
And then I asked to be, if it was possible, I asked to go to inpatient as far away from Seattle as I could, because I didn't want to be tempted to walk out the door.
Yeah,
and
smart.
so, like, if I had nowhere to go, what was I going to do?
Yep.
And so then I went from Detox into Renton, which I don't remember any of it.
Yeah, pretty typical.
Yeah, I remember getting there, and then I remember on a Wednesday, I got there on a Monday, and on a Wednesday, I came to with they were doing the vitals.
Yeah.
And I remember waking up and just hearing the heart monitor go beep, 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 beep. What's going on? Where am I? You know? And then I remember leaving, and I had a bus ticket. I got on a Greyhound and went down to Vancouver, Washington, and did the inpatient there. And then got trucked back up here and did 10 or 11 months of outpatient here in Linwood.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
So as you were going into inpatient, what was going through your head? What were your expectations? What things did you learn?
I was I was defeated, and I was willing to whatever you tell me to go there, I'll go there. Tell me to stand on one foot on this table in this group room for an hour. Okay. You know, so I had completely surrendered. I had bowed down to it, and I took any and all advice that I could. It was confusing, you know. It was very, very confusing, and it was a long time ago. My inpatient was a really high-leveled inpatient where dudes were showing up in their orange jumpers and stuff like that.
Okay. Yep.
And we couldn't go, not like Northpoint, which is wonderful. We couldn't go outside. We got to go outside once a week on Sundays. And if I got there on a Friday and I hadn't been there long enough to go outside, you know, on smoke breaks and stuff, you got 3 smoke breaks a day, and you went outside with a group. You got 10 minutes and had to come back inside.
Yep.
But I missed it, so I hadn't been outside for 10 days. And the moment things went from confusing to, I had nowhere to go. I didn't even think of leaving Detox I had nowhere to go. I didn't even know where I would go. So I just was along for the ride. And on the 10th day or so, I'd finally been there long enough to where I could go outside with them on a Sunday. And I remember sitting on a park bench, and a fly landed on me. And it hit me like a ton of bricks of everything I had done and what I was actually doing, sitting in treatment. And I thought, what a piece of shit I had been with this fly sitting on me. And how do I make it better? What do I do to make it better? And there'll be a story explained about it. But at that moment was when that quote, it really, that was I'm alive, and I don't know why, but I'm going to do something about it. And I'm going to make this right. And so on my 5th anniversary, I was in Leavenworth, and I got that tattooed on me. But
let's make sure the camera saw that, the fly on the
fly on the arm.
That's awesome.
And it's I remember my sister, you're not a piece of shit, you know. And when I said no, it's a symbol of hope. it reminds me that that's what it'll do. If I ever think of relapsing or going back out, that's what it turns me into.
Yeah.
And it's a symbol of strength and a symbol of hope.
I like it.
But yeah, so that was that moment. That was my experience early on, and just kind of going through the motions. And where am I going? Okay, you know, rock groups this way. Oh, okay, you know, and when I finally in that moment when I was outside, that's when I said I got work to do. I've got a lot of work to do, and I just didn't look back.
So completed treatment,
Mm-hmm.
completed outpatient,
Mm-hmm.
inpatient detox, did the whole gambit.
Yeah.
Wife came back.
Yeah, it was. I'll never forget. She's the most beautiful, strongest woman, next to my sister. Yeah, I mean, she's just incredible. But I'll never forget when she got to visit inpatient or outpatient, and she was sitting there cross-legged, and her eyes, they were daggers, and she just nothing. She was not impressed, you know, and her foot shaking, and I remember the counselor like, she's scaring me, you know, you know. But
Listen, I've had some family sessions like that before.
yeah.
Those are hard ones.
But she never gave up, and she would say, look, you're a fighter, so you go make this right. We'll talk when you're making this right. You keep making this right, and we'll go from there. Yeah,
I like it.
I could see my son. She would let me see my son when I got clean UAs. So I'd go into in outpatient every week. Are we UAing today? Like, no, Rock. I'm like, can you give me one? No, because they were random. And so I would get one, and I'd come running home like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory.
Oh,
you
so
know?
every time you got a clean UA, you got to see your kid.
And so yeah,
That's
and then
funny.
she would,
cool.
you know, so I would go up to work and meet her there, and then I would take my son over to, you know, he was 6 months or so at the time then, and we would go just walk around a park or something like that.
Yeah.
But she just there was nothing was definitive. It was, you keep fighting and you keep working and you keep making this right, and we will talk. We'll talk along the way, and that was all I needed.
I love it. That's really good.
Yeah.
I think that's about. Can you think of a better textbook example of how to handle being a spouse of somebody that's going through that?
No, I wish more spouses did that.
That's amazing. That's really good. So we're kind of coming up against the time limit, but I want to make sure that we kind of talk about what life is like now. So now you said 9 years.
Yeah.
Congratulations, man. That's so
you.
Awesome.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
So what's life like now, man?
It's beautiful.
This is when you get to brag about yourself.
It's my youngest son was born on my third sober date, named after my grandfather, who was in the dream that it was but it's my, I get emotional here, but my oldest son, who's 9 now, because he knows my story. He's, you know, and I always says, you'll never see your dad with a beer in his hand or anything like that. But he knows my story. He knows why I went to school. He knows why I work here at Northpoint. And when I leave for work, I said goodbye. I love you, honey. Bye. I love you, Wesley, and love you, son. He's Rocky the Third, and he says, "Go change lives, Daddy." Before I come work here. And I said, I'm going to try. I'm going to do everything I can to try. And so that's what life is. It's my recovery is woven into what I do and what this means to me, and the issues and the problems and the stuff that we have going on out there, that there's people out here that are going to give everything they've got to helping you get clean and helping you get sober. And so my life is just... I can't compare it to anything else. I love it. I love where I work. I love what I do. I love going home. I love waking up. All of it.
That's incredible.
Don't even ask me.
Can you say anything without crying?
Whoa, no, I mean that Rocky, man, that's awesome. Like I said, I've heard amazing things about you before I even came up and met you 6 months ago. You know, when I was coming up here with Bobby was just like, yeah, he's like, you got to meet Rocky. He's like, Rocky's the man. He's like, you'll see when you get up there. And I did. I got to, you know, follow you around and kind of see you interact, and, you know, understanding your story now just makes it that much more clear, the dedication that you have to our company. And man, so glad to have you as a member of the team.
Thank you so much, with all my heart.
Well, and I got to echo that. And I think it's very, very rare to meet somebody that has just genuinely pure intentions in everything they do. And I think you're one of those people. And I think you're just an incredible asset, not only to Northpoint, but to your wife, to your sister, to your parents, to your kids, and to every patient or everybody you meet along the way. Don't ever forget that. One last thing we got for you is just anybody that might be listening right now that might either be struggling with addiction, have a family member that's struggling with addiction, that might be thinking about getting into the addiction treatment industry. Just what last thoughts do you want to leave us with?
One of the debilitating thoughts I had prior to getting into this was that getting into treatment was that I was alone. That there's no way anyone out there really feels like I do. There's, you know, these are the, because I didn't know how to talk, I didn't know how to say, I felt very isolated. If you're listening to this, you're not alone, and we can help. There's good people that have been through this that are going to help you without any judgment at all. I tell these people, or they tell the patients here, I don't care about what you've done. I don't care about what you did. I care that you're here. I care about what you're doing now.
Just like the quote.
Yeah, you know, it doesn't matter. But that if you're suffering from addiction and alcoholism, you're not alone. And that asking for help is going to be maybe the hardest thing that you do, but the most rewarding thing that you ever do. Mm-hmm. So, and same thing for family members, that it's okay to ask, that it's okay to go up and say, hey, are you hurting? Are you okay? Do you want help? And that all of that is okay.
Couldn't say it better myself.
100%.
Thanks for being here. Guys, we're not even going to try to say anything after that. Please make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, that share button. Get Rocky's story out in front of as many people so they can see what a badass he is, and that it's possible to find recovery as well. Once again, this has been No Way But North, where we talk about the miracles of recovery and the tools used to achieve it.
Thank you.
If you or a loved one are struggling with addiction, please call 208-999-4064. The views and opinions expressed in No Way But North do not reflect those of Northpoint Recovery or any other institution or organization.